So I'm really excited to be here, and I want to go ahead and get started. So a few questions to ask you right away. When was the last time you analyzed your inventory? What about switched out your store signage, strengthened your in-store marketing efforts, offered Wi-Fi to your customers, or held an in-store event? What about something unexpected? And finally, rocked your customer service. Today, we're going to learn tips, tricks, and techniques to help you have a successful retail business and ultimately create the toolbox that's right for your unique brand. So let's go ahead and get started. The first must-have detail of any successful retail store is strong signage. Who right now feels like they have strong signage? Is it awesome? Does it do its job? The goal of strong signage is to ultimately speak to your customers, because the reality is 1/3 of customers don't want to talk to you, okay? So what does that mean if the people walking into your store don't even want to have a conversation with you? You need to have signage to support communication. So you can do that in a variety of ways. You can have window signage, door signage, floor signage, ceiling signage, counter signage. There's so many layers to signage opportunity. So we're going to look at the successful components you need to have a stronger store success through that signage. You want to make sure that your signage is speaking for you, because remember, 1/3 of your customers don't want to talk to you, okay? You have to always keep that in mind. You also want to consider, where are your customers looking? Even as you navigate here at the Outdoor Retailer Show, you'll see that the floors speak to you, right? There's actually signage on the floors. Often, however, it's overlooked, okay? What in your own store environment speaks to you on the floor? Is it a welcome mat when you walk in? Is it something directing you to somewhere else? You have to consider what floors can do to impact communication with your customer. The other thing you want to do is ultimately put it to work. Your floor is a valuable asset. This is not only where your customers are walking, but it's guiding them to their next steps. So how is your floor working with you through signage? The other thing you want to consider are your ceilings. Do your ceilings communicate to customers right now? If your ceilings are not speaking to your customer, you have to consider why they should. Ceiling communication directs people through navigation, product insights, store information, and more. Now, depending on the size of your store, it's going to vary. But at the very least, you have to consider how your ceiling can speak to the customer. So, of course, there's a variety of ways in which it can direct by category, but it can also direct things such as events, promotions, sales. Maybe you have an annual event that, you put a ceiling sign up, bring it down. So it doesn't always have to be permanent, is my point. Okay? Often, however, your ceiling's overlooked. And if it's overlooked, it's not helping you or benefiting you in that customer communication that is so very valuable. The other thing you have to think about, and I'm sure all of you do, are your walls. How are your walls helping to speak to customers? Product communication, pricing details. These are the obvious details that any store would consider, but again, you need to put it to work. Digital signage nowadays really maximizes your opportunity to communicate more than one message. The other thing it does is it engages that customer. And when you're engaging the customer, you're keeping them there longer, you're providing more information, there's a longer connection between you and them, and that's always the goal when you're at retail. So a few things you need to consider with your signage. You want to make sure that you're identifying key inventory details. Obviously, inventory is the core of your store. That's what you need to sell. Alert customers to upcoming events. This can be done throughout your store as well as at your cash wrap point of sale area. You want to offer how-to tips. One of the benefits of your store is that you're providing products that actually do a purposeful job in many ways, whether it's paddle boards or camping gear. How-to details are always valuable to your customer. You also want to consider sharing press that you may have received. So whether it's local press within your local community, or possibly it's national press, or even press that you received when you're at a show like the Outdoor Retailer Show, you want to make sure you're pushing that publicity so that the customers who may have missed it see it. Because the reality is, press is cool, publicity is cool, right? So make sure you incorporate that into your store signage. You also want to consider add-on items. So sometimes through a display, you can show the display, but then with signage, Identify other details or other products that might benefit from that same ensemble. Additional sale opportunities, encourage future visits, provoke customer interest through this communication, and ultimately push your signage to get the customers to talk to you. Because as I mentioned before, 1/3 of customers don't want to. So a few resources, as I always like to share, are SpecialtySourceServices.com and ModernDisplay.com. They both have a variety of resources for retailers, particularly the independent retailer. And these are going to be great tools just to research if you're still looking for that extra support through your signage and displays. So your goal here is to make signage a priority. The next thing you want to do is offer Wi-Fi. Who here offers Wi-Fi to your customers? Anyone? So we have one hand going up. So here's what I'm going to tell you about Wi-Fi. It accommodates your 21st century customer. It supports the consumer's preferred experience. And it welcomes customers to stay longer. So let's consider that for a second. The reality is the smartphone is getting smarter, as you all know. For many, the very least part of the phone is the actual phone. Okay? So what else are they using this for that might connect you to your store? So I promise there's some good details here. There's a lot of different things that we know they're using it for, but what else and how can it benefit you? Okay? The thing is, nowadays, Wi-Fi allows you guys to connect with customers. There are actual Wi-Fi businesses that allow you to capture customer data. What it does is that when someone comes to your store and they try to get Wi-Fi, they're alerted and welcomed by your business. But with that welcome, they're asked to provide a little bit of data so that you can capture who they are. Whether it's a simple email address, you can change the categories. You can layer it to be what's your name, your age, what city do you live in. It could be as simple as just capturing that email address. But data is key, guys, because a successful retailer knows that data allows you to stay in touch, right? So let's consider how you can do this. These two companies, Cloud4Y.com and GuestNetMedia.com, allow you to actually introduce Wi-Fi to your store so that when someone comes in your business, you can connect with them, capture their data, and now you have the chance to stay in touch with them well past that visit. You can add them to your email list. You can push any sales or promotions you might have going on that day. It's a very successful strategy that was first rolled out into coffee shops and now rolled out to all retailers. So something to think about. This is a very successful new era of retail, but it's something you don't want to overlook. The idea and habit for you here is to incorporate Wi-Fi to incorporate more customers. The next thing is you want to create a balance of staples and statements within your store inventory. Okay? So this is very critical. I've actually worked with retailers over the years who have introduced this strategy and seen their margins explode, because what they did was they identified not just categories of inventory, but the balance of selling through what sells best. So let's consider what a staple is, just for sake of example. So if you go to a grocery store, milk is a staple item. During the holidays, eggnog would be a statement item, okay? Or if you go to your local apparel store, denim jeans, just traditional dark denim, is a traditional staple item. But if you go during the spring, white capris is likely to fall into that statement mix. And red roses would be any time of year. Pink tulips would be in the spring. Diapers any time of year. Swimming would be seasonal, depending on where you live, possibly all year long. And likewise, coffee would be something always, but peppermint latte might be a seasonal statement. So what in your own inventory would be identified as staples and statements? Okay? Staples get customers into your store. Statements keep customers in your store. Okay? So you need to consider how staples and statements are balanced within your own inventory assortment and ultimately within your entire store environment. What are yours? This is your homework, guys, so you didn't know you were going to take away some homework today, but this is your homework. I want you guys to go back and identify your staples and your statements and see if you can, hopefully using your point of sale system or however you do manage your inventory, to identify what is holding the strength of your sales in your store. Is it your staples or your statements? It's very telling if you look at these categories to see who your customer is, what they want, and how you can better balance your inventory. Okay, so just 2 categories, that's it. So you remember, staples get them in, statements keep them there. So it's something to always think about. So your goal is to create balance between the 2. Our next must-have is ready-to-go event ideas. So who here holds any sort of event during the course of any given month? So I'm actually really surprised that not everyone raised their hand, because the reality is events are what engage customers. Of course, many things do, but this is such an asset, such a tool that should be in your toolbox that you can interact with customers with. Retail is social, retail is interactive, and retail is engaging. So are events. Okay, so this is a reason you need to create events more often in your store environment. Events are going to give you the opportunity to connect with customers, share store news, share vendor news for that matter. You can always partner with vendors to do some of these. Offer engaging shopping experience among consumers, which are often very like-minded people. So maybe you're doing something uniquely to one core audience of consumers and another to a different audience. Plus, it keeps your customers loyal and entertained. So the reality is, at the end of the day, we all want to make some money, right? So events are also a huge strategy to help you do that. I always tell people have 3 small events every month and at least 1 big one. Okay, that's a very realistic way to balance your events. That's 4 times a month. Months typically have 4 weeks. So here you go, having 3 small, 1 big. This is a really great way. But don't worry, I'll give you a few ideas. Retail recipes. If you're creating retail recipes, what you're doing is you're having go-to recipes, if you will, to create retail events. These are going to give you the opportunity to make it turnkey, as well as make your employees get involved and make it turnkey for them as well to implement, push out to your customers, and get your customers engaged. So a few ideas just to give you some. The bucket blowout sale. So any type of bucket, whether it's a wooden bucket, a galvanized metal bucket, what's in your store right now that you could throw into some buckets and create a sale, okay? You could do $5 and under. Maybe you're pushing out old inventory. You could do $10 and under, or possibly you do it by category. Hats, T-shirts, whatever, sunglasses, whatever makes sense for your business. The bucket blowout sale. This is an easy event, okay? It wouldn't be considered one of your harder ones. Or what about a mix and mingle ski clinic? Do you live in a community where skiing is popular? Mixing and mingling between customers might be fun too. It's a way to get like-minded people together, but also bring them to a place to shop, spend, be social. These are all exciting ways to come to your store. A few other tips when you're planning these events. Don't overlook how partnering with some like-minded community businesses might make sense. It doesn't mean they have to be competitive businesses, but rather like-minded. So possibly you welcome your local cupcake company or a smoothie shop to come make smoothies that day. So there's always creative ways to get involved here. You could do crashing waves, slashing prices if you're a beach or a surf store. There's a lot of different things that you can do. I call them retail recipes because recipes are ready to go, right? So you want to take a day, create your retail recipes, and have them ready to go so that you can implement them in your own business. And ideally, you're forecasting at least 3 months ahead, and you're using that in-store signage we talked about earlier to promote these to your customers. Okay? And add a bonus, if you got that Wi-Fi going, you can push that announcement out by those automatic pushes that they do. So your habit goal is to create events consistently and present your business as the place to be socially as well as when they're ready to spend. So next, your toolbox number 5, and this is our last toolbox today. You want to make customer service a priority. I know you've heard it before, right? But the reality is, and I bet a lot of you can agree, if you go into businesses nowadays, customer service is not a priority, okay? So here's 3 easy steps. These are easy steps. You can bring them back to your own stores, your own team of employees, and push this out so that you don't ever have to think twice about whether or not your team is delivering the type of service you want it to when you're not there. Your goal is to deliver a red carpet customer service experience. The very first thing to do is be starstruck, okay? So if someone walks through that door, you need to be starstruck. This happened to me. A friend of mine in Chicago owned a store, and she was alerted that Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie were going to come make a visit, and they were going to do so before store hours. Well, she had a team of about 7 and easily had staff available. Of course, who wouldn't want to volunteer for this, right? But she calls me and says, Nicole, I don't have anybody to work. I said, well, what do you mean? I was just there last week. You have a ton of people there to work. She goes, no, I would never let them actually help Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. So it made me realize every customer's a star, okay? If your customers aren't considered stars, then you need to reevaluate why they're shopping with you, okay? Every customer's a star. So whether these guys are walking through your doors or not, you need to identify what makes sense. So by the way, I did work that day. I was happy to put on her t-shirt and support them, and lots of fun, and sadly her team didn't. But she ended up letting a few people go after that when she realized just how poor their customer service performance really was. The next, of course, in being starstruck is that's your cue for being in awe. You want to drop everything. Let go of that inventory you're counting. Make sure that anything else you're doing behind the scenes gets pushed to the side, because this is your opportunity to give people that 120% attention. With that comes providing royal treatment. So it's 3 steps. This is point number 2. Provide royal treatment in your customer service. So when you see these guys, what happens? There are certain expectations and standards that comes with being royalty. So the same way you want to be starstruck, you want to set standards for your store. What are those standards in your customer service? This should be something that you automatically can pull out of that retail toolbox, introduce to any new employees, and everybody should be able to seamlessly roll it out in their own customer communication. Okay, royal treatment should not be limited to just royalty. You need to make sure it's rolled out to your own customers. You want to observe the customer's behavior. You want to ask open-ended questions. This is going to create conversation. And as we said earlier, 1/3 of customers don't want to talk to you. So asking yes or no questions will get you nowhere. So make sure you're asking questions that actually create a conversation. Listen between the lines. Make sure you give them space, though. If they don't want to chat, that's okay. Okay? You can still observe their behavior, see what they're touching, see what they may be experiencing in your store. Make suggestions, and ultimately determine the why of their buy. So this leads us to our 3rd step. You want to get customer autographs. Okay, so what does that mean? The ultimate autograph equals money, okay? They're signing a credit card receipt, they're giving you cash, we'll consider it an autograph. But the reality is, beyond that credit card receipt, how else can you capture their autograph? There's actually a lot of ways. So if you have a customer come in and you've treat them like they're royalty, of course, and they leave empty-handed, don't consider it a loss, okay? Because you can still get their autograph, and you can still have the opportunity to connect with them future experiences. How can you do that? Email lists. Make sure they're signing up for yours. We go back to that store signage we talked about earlier. Store signage is so key, so make sure it's very visible for people to know, I want to sign up with you, you want to get their data. Social media. Don't just share your social media and give them a reason to connect with you on it, but also consider how you could follow them right then and there from your own accounts on Instagram. If there's someone who's really into social media, they're going to love that engagement as well, back and forth. And of course, snail mail. Snail mail is overlooked these days, but it's still very strong. So you might not use it all year long, but when you do, it's really great to have those autographs, right? So you want to make sure you're capturing this data throughout all your shopping experiences, not just those that actually sign a credit card receipt. So be starstruck, provide royal treatment, and get their autographs, okay? Your habit goal is to make customer service a priority. And I'll tell you right now, if you do have some local competition, and we all do, this is going to really help you stand out. Because like I said, nowadays, it's often overlooked. Your to-do list is very, very long. But this alone is going to give you a reputation that when they leave that store and they're paddleboarding with friends or they're hiking, they're going to be talking about the gear they got. Where did they get it? They got it from you. If they have a sour experience, they're going to tell people that. But if they had positive experience and it was really positive, they're going to tell people that too. So you want to make sure that customer service experience really is something that is memorable. So in review from today, the 5 successful toolbox resources that you guys need to have as a retailer is to incorporate strong signage to help you speak as a retailer. Whoops. You want to also introduce Wi-Fi into your store, not just to cater to the customer nowadays, but also capture that data so you can stay in touch with them. And balance your inventory between staples and statements. I think you'll be very surprised when you go back to your store to find that staples and statements might not be the same sync or aligned as how you might think within your own store. So look at the staples and statements of inventory. And have event ideas ready to go. I call these retail recipes. Retail recipes are ready to go, 3 a month that are smaller, 1 that is larger. And of course, deliver that red carpet customer service. 3 steps to that. It's easy to bring back to your team. It's something that will help make your store memorable and more stand out. So those are your 5 retail resources to help make your store a stronger success. I'm here to chat with you guys, and I'll be back again later today to chat maximizing your point of sale experience as well and how you can make more money doing so. So thank you.